Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 4 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. If you have a story you'd like to submit to the podcast, you can do so by email at karmastoriespod@gmail.com. Before we start today, just a quick announcement that I've started a new YouTube channel called Rob's Real Stories. On this channel, I'll be covering interesting times in history, some weird and eccentric people, and basically anything else that piques my interest. You can find this channel on YouTube under the handle @Rob's Real Stories, and I hope you'll take a moment to go check it out. There will be links in the description section for this on both the podcast and on YouTube. Alright, on to today's compliance stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Revolution Friendly 56. Loyalty goes both ways. I am a worker bee in a company that got bought out by a much bigger company earlier this year. Even though we were a small company, the teams were flexible and everyone helped each other, and the company was profitable. Not to the new ownership though. Apparently, our company was crap and needed to be immediately fixed with structure, hierarchy, and order. The managers I've worked so well with over the years are gone. The new owners promised no change, nothing to worry about. Everything will be the same. Except that within a month, all the experienced managers who made the workplace so great to work for are let go. What is worse, they've been replaced by emotionless walking husks resembling ghosts with hammers as their only tool, and we're all nails. Never mind the incessant preaching of company spirit and loyalty and respect and company values. We all moan at these pep talks, we all yawn at the town halls. Then the less subtle threats. Oh, you're not a team player if you don't do X, Y, and Z. You need to work overtime, or else that's not fair to everyone else. You're leaving on time again? The culture certainly has changed. For one, I didn't even dare to take off early to pick up my kids from school anymore. Finally, the toxic culture of fear and backstabbing. Every word said against the direction, even off the cuff and chit chat, and every little facial or non-verbal gesture against the flow are immediately and harshly met with reprimands. For example, another worker bee was recently let go for restructuring despite stellar work performance. He just couldn't keep his thoughts to himself, I guess. I hope I painted a good picture of what life under the iron fist is like. Many of us are contemplating leaving, but the job market is quite depressing in our area. The cost of living is high, and we are afraid of being the neck that sticks out. So everyone suffers in silence. The company recently appointed a new CEO who, in his opening introduction to everyone, demanded undivided loyalty to him. It means we must follow his every direction. It means we must smile in his presence and be super upbeat. I think the expectation here is we must cry like North Korean women in the presence of Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un. You want us to have absolute loyalty? I believe loyalty goes both ways, but we can show you loyalty. We all got the message. You want us to play Oscar-winning actors and actresses instead of actually getting work done and speaking our minds to make the company better? You got it. For those of us who read and trust each other, but we still need to be careful, we would have hours-long meetings with each other on topics that sound important but don't actually matter. We make sure our days are jammed-packed full of discussions on how to move initiatives forward, but never actually discuss anything of substance, and never have aggressive action items to follow up on. We absolutely never forget to praise the leadership in the meeting minutes. Off the books though, there's lots of small talks for the sake of team building. Whenever we're questioned by those husks of a ghost, we'd pull out the corporate roadmap and point to the initiatives we spent so many hours working on. We'd defend our time with the budget that recently got rolled out. Look, we're on side. We've gone so far as requesting additional resources in the next year's budget to ensure our very busy initiatives continue to make headway. We're basically creating a public perception of busy without actually doing much. We were a lean small company, Now we're a fat busybody where everything is bloated and compartmentalized. We shut our faces and we nodded. We clapped the hardest after every presidential speech, and we lost money in the last several months. That's the price we pay to give one-sided loyalty. We're still looking for other jobs. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Death Walker Lives. It says, "The beatings will continue until morale improves." Ah yes, the age-old tactic of loyalty by force. Nothing says thriving workplace culture like turning employees into robots programmed for forced enthusiasm. But did anybody else notice the tactics described in this are really similar to the CIA's Simple Sabotage Field Manual? It includes ways to subtly sabotage organizations from within by doing things like holding excessively long, meaningless meetings, delaying decisions, and focusing on all the trivial details, all under the guise of being productive. OP, soon you'll be requesting memos about memos, and no one's even going to notice that you're still plotting your escape. This story comes to us from No Go Away 4. You want a male dentist? Sure. This happened about 2 years ago when I was still in dental school. I'm sorry about any mistakes, English isn't my first language. I want to start by saying that I'm a very nice dentist. I'm not a nice person at all, but I'm very nice to my patients. I'm also pretty good at my job. I won't say I'm the best, but I know that I'm good. That day, however, I was not in a good mood. A lot of terrible things happened to me in the morning that ruined my day, and as if that wasn't enough, I went to my job just to find out that Dr. Smith, fake name obviously, is the attending doctor. He is the worst. He will show up 15 minutes after we start working on our patients. I don't think he realizes that we are just students and we might need help. Anyway, it just put me in a worse mood. So the secretary gave me a patient. One thing you need to know is that if the patient wants the same gender doctor because of religious reasons, then we have to give them a same gender doctor. But if the patient wants another doctor for no good reason, then it's up to us. We can send them to another doctor, or we can tell them that it's either me or no one, and they are free to leave if they don't like me. I got the patient. I put on a smile and approached her. She looked at me and said, "Hi, I'm waiting for Dr. Jones." I said, "Yeah, I am Dr. Jones." She looked at me again, clearly disappointed, and said, "Oh, I assume Dr. Jones is a man." I tried to use my nicest voice while answering, "Well, you were wrong." There was a silence for a moment while I prepared my things. Then I heard a fake short laugh from her. "Look, honey, I'm not saying you're bad at your job. I'm sure you are really good at it, but I want to extract my tooth, and that requires lots of strength, and I believe it would be better suited for a male doctor." Now I'm so angry, but still trying to be nice. I assure you, I have extracted many teeth before, and I can do it as well as any man. She didn't say anything. I left to get some more things that I needed, and as soon as I left, I saw her jump from her chair and went to the male nurse and begged him to extract the teeth instead of me, who calmly explained to her that he is not a doctor and she should just let me do my job. Now I'm fuming. I went back to her and said, "Do you want a male doctor?" She said, "Yes, I do." I said, "Fine then." I looked around and there he was, the exact person I was looking for, Kai. Kai is one of my classmates, and he sucks at his job. He is absolutely terrible. We even have a bet on when he will be kicked out. I took the patient to Kai and asked him if he wants to have my patient. He was more than happy to do so. Then I sat back and watched, and to my delight, Kai was also with Dr. Smith, which means he wouldn't get any help for the first 10 to 15 minutes. It was like Christmas come early. It was a disaster. I loved every second of it. I don't want to go through how much pain the patient was in, but I will say that she was in tears when it was finally done. It's a pity that Kai dropped out shortly after. I would have sent all of these kinds of patients to him. This totally reminds me of that old joke that says, "What do you call the doctor who was dead last in their graduating class? You call them doctor." Here's a whole new perspective on this story though. If you look at it from Kai's perspective, This is a heartwarming story where one of his classmates completely believed in his skill. This story comes to us from Sly Staller. You just need to prioritize, soon ex-boss. Hey, maybe not the most interesting or crazy story, but still some malicious compliance from my end. English is not my first language, so please be kind. I have been working in IT for the last 10 years. 4 of those in the company I am just leaving. I joined this company after a few bad experiences with coworkers and bosses. After getting to know some of the staff in the company, I was really happy about the coworkers and colleagues because most of them seemed to be really friendly. Into my second year at the company, I felt like we were understaffed in IT. Not too bad still, I thought. This was up until our workload increased. Before, we could handle the daily stuff in projects and on top could do some system upgrades over the year. Now, we were getting more and more work due to new regulations from corporate and more software that needed to be supported. During this time, I started asking my team leader to look for a new guy. We needed more hands. After a year of bringing this up at least once per month, my boss started with his speech about, you just need to prioritize your work. Of course, this would not help if the work is at like 110% of the load that the current team could handle. We increased our hours and could get it done, but that was only for half a year. At this point, I was done with this whole ordeal. Corporate IT got more and more hostile if you did not message some people directly, what was prohibited normally. And on top, I saw people left and right leaving. After around 3 years of being with the company, I saw our trainee leave. I talked to him about pay and why he wanted to leave. Not to deter him, but to understand his reasoning and show my support. And at that point, I have been passively looking for a job for about 6 months. It was at this time talking to my team leader and telling him that he needs to increase my salary by around 8% at least and bring more hands to the team. He was asking me why I wanted to leave. I told him about the problems that he knows and said I can't bring myself to stay in this company with the problems the team is facing. I just need to prioritize myself. He did not react, unfortunately, but I think he got the point. As a side note, later I heard from my boss, basically the one above my team leader and me, that my team leader has never asked for more people. And to be honest, I want to trust this guy because he was sincere all the time as far as I know. OP added a quick edit in down at the bottom. It says, I handed in my resignation and start my new job next month. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called the Old Man 1313. It says, I have worked in a lot of places where the potential workload far exceeded the man hours available. More often than not, when I asked about priorities, I got told they're all number 1 priorities. So I just worked on what I wanted to. After all, anything I did was a number 1 priority. OP responded to this one and said, that was basically the same here. I can understand you there. On the one hand, you have a project for Department 1 that needs to be prepared, and on the other hand, you need to fix stuff for the restructuring of Department 2. Both work that is basically ordered by the boss's boss's boss. So both is priority 1. Those are just 2 examples. Basically, most of the time, it was like 3 or more of those tasks. Well, OP, they did ask you to prioritize, and you just said, hey, I'm going to prioritize myself. So they asked for prioritization, and they got it, just not the way they exactly wanted it. OP, I wish you the best of luck in your new job. This story comes to us from Tough Painting 6400. All you can eat. Many years ago, over 20, my wife and I kept a boat at a lake near our home. The marina had a restaurant that had an all-you-can-eat fried catfish on the menu. These catfish were whole and just about the size of a grown man's hand. We had been eating there 3 or 4 times a month for the past 3 years. I held the record of 17 catfish consumed, and Pete, the owner and cook, always said that I was maxed out and could never better my score. Now comes the malicious compliance. Wife and I had 10 family and friends visiting for my birthday, and we all went to the marina for dinner. I boldly and loudly announced that I was going to beat my record of 17 catfish. Obviously, Pete overheard my braggadocio and took our orders. A lot of beer was being consumed. Pete brought out 9 platters, turned to me and said, "Beat your record and everything is on the house." With cheers all around, Pete then said, "Fail, and you'll have to give Gail and Debbie a 25% tip." Everyone, including me, agreed and just knew we were getting a free meal. Pete went back to the kitchen and brought out my first catfish. That sucker weighed 5 pounds. I could not even eat the one. Everyone laughed and we did have a great time. And yes, the girls got their tip and I never messed with Pete again. Pete and I remained friends until he passed away last year. He never tired of telling this story. I love stories like this that are unexpectedly wholesome, but they also tell the story of somebody who's no longer with us. Did anybody else feel like Pete had been raising that fish in the back in a gigantic fish tank going, "One day I'm gonna need you," when he challenges me again? Alright, so we're ending this video off a little bit differently today because I would like to showcase for you part of the first new video on my new channel called Rob's Real Stories. On this channel, I'm covering a variety of topics, but it's mostly going to be history with eccentric people and basically anything else that I find interesting. The first video is on the Knights Templar, and here is a sample from that video. The Knights Templar, a name that echoes with power, mystery, and intrigue throughout history. These warrior monks were once among the most feared and revered military orders in the medieval world. But how did they ascend to such heights of influence? And why, after nearly 2 centuries of dominance, did they fall so swiftly and so completely? Today, we embark on a journey to uncover the rise and the fall of the Knights Templar, exploring their origins, their critical role in the Crusades, their dramatic downfall, and the myths and legends that have kept their story alive for centuries. You can check out the rest of that video on my new channel, Rob's Real Stories. There's a link in the description down below, and also one in the top of the comment section. Head on over there, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when the next video comes out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.